This is Bordello.
Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm the chair of the Committee on Finance. I'm calling to order a regular meeting on Thursday, May 23rd at 5:34 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor is absent. Councilor Amberwall,
Here.
Councilwoman Graves is absent. Councilor Sanchez,
Here.
3 present, 2 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And I would like to recognize, we have Susanna Olnick here from the legal department. Thank you very much. We've got our auditor Gina Costa with us. We have our wonderful clerks, Tina Mastriani and Lauren Gutierrez. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to rearrange the agenda this evening, taking the Board of Contract and Supply issues first. So if I may have a motion to amend the agenda to take item number 5 first.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Amberwall, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. So with that, I think we have. Yes. Yes. It was just, with that, I think we have a presenter this evening. Or were you presenting on the tab?
Yes.
That's you. Come on up.
Madam Chair, would you mind if I also join us? Yeah.
So sorry. You're always welcome to
Thank
the
you very
table.
much. I appreciate that.
Shall I swear them in, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Please state your names and titles for the record.
Crystal Lippert, Deputy Finance Director in Budget.
Jim Silveria, the CIO.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again. All right, please proceed on the BSI software matter.
So this request was sent to the Board of Contract a few weeks ago for request to pay the BSI software. This is a system that we use exclusively with our Infor Lawson payroll system. And what the system does is it provides calculations for tax rates. This includes all federal taxes, all state taxes, and if any, local taxes to be applied to payroll, basically your payroll check. So it's a service that we subscribe to. BSI canvasses the states, local ordinances, federal tax withholding rates, social security rates, for example, Medicare withholding. And as those change, which they tend to each year, BSI updates the rates, the withholding tables, different state rates as they change, and then publish updates, which we essentially download and install in our payroll system, so that each payroll run has the most up-to-date, most accurate withholding rates that are applied to the paychecks. So, for example, in the last calendar year in 2023, we received 32 updates, changes in what was the FICA threshold, federal withholding rates, and state withholding rates. We use payroll tax calculation for over 3,000 retiree paychecks and 5,700 active employees across city, school, and water in 38 states. Many of those are mentioned, but it's still important that shows that the withholding rates are calculated properly. So it's a critical subscription that we maintain with BSI. It has been renewed every year since Lawson was first procured. It was part of the original procurement from Lawson. When we first went out to bid, it was kind of packaged up together with it. Lawson certifies that BSI is the software that they essentially certify with their platform and can deliver those tax calculations and give us accurate data. So we requested for the contract, we renew our subscription each year. And, we're requesting, this committee also approve that.
And may I ask, is this the, how much it usually is approximately for the annual renewal?
Yes, so this year the renewal is $14,298.64. Since I've been working with this, there have been some modest increases. Over the past several years, it's gone from $12,000 about 10 years ago. Now it's a little more than $14,000. We typically anticipate many of our software subscriptions increase 3 to 5% per year. That's just the general across the board increase that we see in the industry. And, so this has increased over the past few years. But
And when does this contract expire? And when is this this update finish?
so the current subscription that we have expires on May 31st. We did submit this to the board of contract actually about 2 months ago, when we first had they've been asking them from the quote. Purchasing did advertise this on statewide BidNet to see if there were any other interested bidders. We didn't receive any. And so then we went ahead with the active board contract submission meeting, trying to get this completed and approved in time for that May 31st next week.
Okay. Great. Any questions? I'm sorry, we are joined by Providence Charter. Thank you very much for joining us. Yes, Councilor Tamika.
Thank you, for this very, helpful presentation of what exactly this contract is. My only question is, do we use BSI for anything else on the other software? Is this the only agreement we have with them? In your department that you'd be aware of?
As far as I'm aware, this is the only use of BSI systems, any system that BSI has in the city. And this is their primary business, their business of tax preparation. So this is one of their core products. They do work with other verticals and retail and manufacturing, and anyone that's has to have some type of service like this. Or imagine they do the research themselves, and look at that. We rely on service because, like I said, we have employees in 38 states, as well as federal regulations that need to keep up. So it's we find it worthwhile and cost effective to use this subscription.
Do you have any other questions? Does anyone like to make a motion? Yes.
And what is the reason why it comes to finance and not just approved by the board of contracts?
You might make an answer. We can have a matter on auditor. Would that be all right?
According to 21-26 2, it's a purported sole source vendor. It's not bid out, so it's a request to pay. And I know it's a proprietary software, but it is not bid out, so it gets referred for that purpose.
So it's not bid out because they're unique. They're the only ones that actually perform this. And they've been doing it for how many years in the city?
Also, this is going to kind of roll into my next request that I have. So we've been using Lawson software. So the company is Inform. The software is called Lawson. That is our ERP system. That is the system that we use for payroll, as well as our finances, our AP, our retirement system, our benefits and HR system as well. That system was put out to bid about 20 years ago and was awarded to the Lawson at that time. We adopted that platform. When we committed to the Lawson platform, board of that contract, we also included several other services. BSI is one of them. Lawson doesn't have its own tax calculation system. They rely on third-party vendors as well. And this was the vendor that was certified at the time and still recommended and certified. This is the vendor that works with the loss and payroll system. So we have not gone out to bid for BSI tax calculation or tax calculation in general. Over the past 20 years, we've renewed that one.
They pretty much just subcontracted out that, the BSI function.
Yes.
And so that was 20 years ago that we put it out for RFP.
Yes.
Why that long? And why?
So I'm happy to discuss that now.
Yeah, please.
Next, but
We actually have that coming up. Can we save that question?
sure.
Unless are we comfortable voting? Maybe we should have spoken about these together. But we also have the, number 6 that we are going to, yeah.
I just have one more question on this one.
Okay.
So, because it sounds like you're gonna take a vote on this. You know.
Yeah.
So this is just a one-time payment,
This is an annual payment.
annual
This
payment
is
for,
for this year.
for this year. The next year, they'll come, you'll come again for the payment.
We expect it, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And that part, I don't have a fever, is this expires May 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
So, okay, so, is there a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve made by Councilor Anderbaugh, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. All opposed. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 6?
Item 6, resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by Board of Contract Supplying according to section 21-26 B2 of the Code of Ordinances. Import US LLC, $335,850.59. Department of IT.
I'm sorry, I also need to do a motion to take this out.
Second.
Great, motion made by Councilor Anderbaugh, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, so now we can get right into the lawsuit discussion.
Thank you. All right, so Infor is the vendor and Awesome is the software that we use. The background is, again, this software was put in place back around 2003 to 2004, following an RFP for, we call it an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning. And we use Awesome here in the city to manage our HR processing, our benefits processing, our retirement system, so retirement calculation, dependent loans, retirement eligibility, tracking contributions into the accounting system, and then producing a pension payroll for retirements. We use it to produce payroll for traditional employees or active employees. We manage accounts payable through this, all of our vendor payments are managed through Lawson. We manage our finances, and then some budgeting through this as well. There's different activities through inventory that are managed through Lawson as well. Procurement, it is handled through Lawson, so all of our requisitions and purchase orders are created, managed, and tracked in Lawson. And the mentioned AP, we make payments against those purchase orders, so everything's matched. This handles, it's the city's primary financial and business application for employees and businesses. This did go up for bid back in like I said, in the early 2000s. It was put into place, it was a several-year project, put into place around 2003. It included BSI tax calculation. There was another piece of it that we used to report. And the request tonight before you is for $335,815.59. This covers the annual license, which we pay to Infor, in order to operate the Lawson software, as well as annual support. So support allows IT as well as, different departments to open a case or make a call for a question. In 2023, we had 63 support cases open. These included things such as assistance setting up employee absence plans. We came up with a new backup plan. How do we need a little help setting that up. Processing payroll, changing email delivery to work with our new Office 365 environment for email delivery. Employees not receiving W-2 or 1099, helping us track down errors with tax reporting. Assistance with manual cash deductions, employee benefit entry issues, employee deduction setups, pension payroll, check issues. And a list of 63 different issues. Anything that you can imagine we do here as part of our regular business in the finance offices, retirement offices, the payroll offices, AP offices. Occasionally something comes up or there's a request for a change or something different that we want to be able to do. We can open a case with informal support. So the request for this payment is to extend our license and support for another year on the import platform.
And follow up to, I'm so sorry, you're not finished, or would you like to,
I just wanted to add, because I think if I can
yes, go
answer
ahead,
this
yes.
question is, the platform that we're currently using in Lawson is supported through 2029. That sounds really far away, but in terms of replacing or upgrading a system of this magnitude for a city our size, it's a very, very large project. So we've already started planning for the replacement of Infor. This past year, we issued an RFI, soliciting input from vendors who have systems similar to this for, city, town government, similar size to us that do similar things, to give us submissions on what does a modern system do today, and what do they offer, and what would a new ERP system look like? What would a replacement cost? What would the annual fees cost? What is the timeline it would take to implement something like this in their experience? So we have submissions from that RFIs there several months ago, and they're looking to actively work with the finance team, the HR team, retirement team, and bring in Providence Water as well as the school department, because they're both active users of this as well. And so after we review this RFI and then move forward later this calendar year with the development of an RFP. So we do intend to go out to bid for a new RFP system, a new ERP system to replace our current Lawson environment. We do expect this to be a several-year project. I do expect to come back to you next year with a request for renewal in that current environment. As I said, it's supported through 2029. I don't want to be running Lawson through the very last day. I'd like there to be, I'd like us to be a little bit earlier than that and have something new in place. We may have to run some of these systems in parallel for some time until we can convert them over. But we do have a plan in place for the eventual replacement of the Lawson system. It's worked very, very well for 20 years, but it's still supported by them. I would expect Infor to give us a submission to move us onto their latest platform. There are competing platforms out there as well. So we're looking forward to that process and to learn more about the other systems that are out there, and eventually, selecting something that the city can hopefully use for another.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. So I was just going to follow up on your question. We appreciate your very frequent chat. Something that speaks music to our ears. Please.
Thank you. And so your assessment is that it's time to move on from this company, because there might be better efficient software and companies that actually do this.
Not necessarily.
Because,
What I'm saying is, the current system that we're using
right,
is supported through the end of 2029.
correct,
Which means that they'll license it until 2029. They will take our calls. They'll give us updates on the software through 2029. But after that, much like versions of Windows, or versions of Office, or even, the operating system in your iPhone, at some point, they don't support that old version.
right,
And they're telling us 5 years ahead of time, you need to start looking into a new version. They would, Infor would love us to stay with their next product, and we'll certainly consider that. But there are competing products, so we're gonna consider the entire field of options.
so, and, thank you for that explanation, I understand that. Also, is in terms of, I'm glad that they shared with you in a sense, yeah, this software is gonna go outdated, so you gotta start preparing. I'm just curious to know in the sense of the company itself, has it evolved? Or it's just, an office somewhere with like 10 employees and they've been operating this a certain amount of contracts? And then the second thing is, how do they rate in terms of this type of work? In the category of like the top 10 or something.
So what I can speak to is part of your first question. This is a very large company that they have versions of Blossom which are used both in public sector. They have a version that's used in the healthcare sector. They have a version that's used in manufacturing sector. So they produce slightly different versions because we do our accounting differently, different types of things. We don't do a lot of accounts receivable, for example, in government, whereas the manufacturer, I don't know how many customers they have worldwide. They do have global presence. And as far as how they rank, I don't have that in front of me where they are. There are a lot of services out there. Gartner, for instance, has they call it magic quadrants, where they will rate different software systems such as this, and it does give us some insight and how they, you mentioned rank among the competitors. So I don't have that information in front of me, but that is, like I said, something that we are going to be considering and replacement.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. How long have you been here, Chief?
About 13.
I guess in your time here, how come we haven't explored or put out RFI? Why did we go 10, 20 years with this specific? I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just curious on your
So we
opinion.
work closely with a number of teams, in addition to finance and HR and our benefits side. And it kind of met our needs. And very, very well over the past few years. What we've seen recently is newer systems are coming out. The other night, somebody mentioned online enrollment for benefits. That's not brand new. That's been around for a couple of years, but that's something that we're looking at integrating as well. It's not currently really available in the system that we have. So as we're starting to see more of these features and options come out, coupled with the kind of deadline that Infor offered us at the end of 2029, where this is due for replacement anyway. We made a city, among IT, we support the system. We're not trying to use it in this. We work with the finance teams across city, school, and water, the benefits teams, the HR teams, to come to an agreement that we do need to issue an RFI, issue an RFP, and one or the other, we need to come up with a replacement strategy by the end of this day.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Just quickly, how has automated information the last few years impacted these types of softwares? Like, are the new softwares that are out there a lot different than what we're currently using? Like, what's your feeling?
So, honestly, I look forward to giving you a much better answer in a year from now. what we're hearing and what we've seen from the RFIs is there are more modern systems. The navigation, the end user experience is a little bit different, it's a little bit easier to navigate. There are additional features. There is a self-service feature built into Lawson that we have today. There's a lot more available for the say employees or end users to be able to interact more with their own benefits and their own HR records, or change of address, and whatever. So there are newer features and things that are available in newer systems. And as I said, that's where we're looking to go.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Anderboss, seconded by Counselor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye, all opposed. Thank you so much, Keith, for coming and joining us. Deputy Director, we get to keep you.
Yeah, I'll be here all night.
Right. Thank you so much. At this time, may I have a motion to waive the readings of items 1 through 10?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Anderboss, seconded by Counselor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. All opposed. With that, we are going to move right to our sustainability department. Come right up and we'll swear you in, how are you?
Good, how are you? All three of us in case there's questions.
Of course, we would expect nothing less. We're from all of you. Okay, well,
Yeah. Have me all night.
Everyone can raise their right hands. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Please state your names and titles for the record. Priscilla Delover, Director of Sustainability. Thank you.
Kevin Prop, Deputy Director of Sustainability. David Pacheco, and the Resiliency Administrator.
Thank you.
wonderful, have a seat. I would like to mark the presentation from sustainability as exhibit number 25.
Second.
All right, motion made by Counselor Anderson, seconded by Counselor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye, all opposed.
Madam Chair, there is also a letter from the Sustainability Commission supporting the sustainability budget, if we can enter that.
Yes, I would like to do that, and that's from Julian Drix, Chair of the Sustainability Commission. May I have a motion to mark this as exhibit
26.
26?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Anderson, seconded by Counselor Sanchez, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Okay, so Deputy Director.
Right, okay, so tonight we have Department of Sustainability. This department is not a revenue generating department, however, they did earn some energy credits last fiscal year. Due to a surplus that had accrued over a multitude of years that we had then sold off. And I was our energy resilience administrator dig into a little bit more how that's changed in the upcoming fiscal year, but I did want to clarify that while this from the generate revenue, there is some energy credit savings that we will see in the budget in fiscal year 2025.
Okay.
Total salaries for sustainability are proposed at $498,256. This is an increase of $68,131 with the fiscal 2024 department. The 2024 budget, and the department has proposed the following organizational changes. They are requesting to defund their fiscal coordinator at a salary of $64,365, and they would like to fund the fiscal and communications coordinator at a salary of $69,564. The net change of these adjustments is $5,199, and the revised job description is included in your packet. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $237,303. This is a decrease of $64,989 from the fiscal 2024 budget. Total services for fiscal 25 are proposed at $79,738. This is a decrease of $43,172 from the fiscal 2024 budget. This decrease is primarily due to a reduction of private contractors expenditures, which have been reallocated to grant expenditures. Total supplies in fiscal 2025 are proposed $147,362. This is an increase of $43,172 over the fiscal 2024 budget. And this increase is primarily due to a
increase in grant expenditures which have been reallocated from the private contractors to line item. And there are no capital expenditures expected.
Director, thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to hear from you tonight.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Finance Committee, and I'm excited to be with you all today. Thank you so much for the time tonight. I would love to start off by sharing a few highlights of the work that the sustainability team has been doing. And we've been doing this work in collaboration with City Council, with the Mayor's Office, and across many city departments. I will take the time to acknowledge the dedicated team and talented staff that I am fortunate to work with every day. Two of them are here, David and Kevin, and they'll be available for questions and discussion. So we work really hard day in and day out to create a healthy, low carbon, climate resilient, and environmentally just city. And this is essential as Providence strives to be carbon neutral by 2050. And as we continue our commitment to implement the nationally recognized climate justice plan. So the sustainability staff, I have to say, I've been involved with them since I started last July. The administration had already transitioned. I started 6 months later. But they did a tremendous job in just really keeping up the pace of the work while not having a director and being short-staffed at the time. Kevin served as the acting director. David was initially hired as the energy administrator, and we'll talk about how he was promoted and why. So in looking at the work of Kevin, David, and also acknowledging Julia Dearden, who serves as our fiscal and communications director, she has been so steady in guiding us through this budget process and all the communications that we do. And that's important because we became a fiscally independent department in fiscal year 2023. So for us as a department, it was really learning the ropes of how to be fiscally independent and creating that position that Julie has as the fiscal communications coordinator, and she's been doing a stellar job. So I'll acknowledge a few things that we've done with that team, and then also sort of the new staff that we've welcomed. So we launched the Providence Community Electricity Program in May of last year. It has been successful to date. In the first 10 months of that program, we purchased more than 7,600 megawatt hours of voluntary renewable energy. So that is for the residents and small businesses that are participating in that voluntary program, where we add a little renewable energy to have a big impact and help stabilize the cost of that electricity supply to save our residents money. So really the impact of that is over 13 million pounds of carbon dioxide emissions being avoided. Again, while helping our residents save a little bit of money on their electricity supply. So really proud of that program to date, and we will continue that work. The other thing that the department has done really well is position our ability to leverage our budget to secure federal funding. And to date, we've secured about $7.6 million in federal funding, and that is for climate resiliency efforts that we're now working to implement. That includes projects for public street waterfront access, recycling and food waste management programs that we're doing in collaboration with DPW, the modeling of vulnerable flooding areas. We're about to embark on that project, and we'll talk a little bit more later on about climate resiliency and stormwater, and also a list of energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades in municipal buildings. And that includes something we call our resiliency hub network, which I'll talk about. That leads me to saying that in January, we were really fortunate to welcome Sophie Wirch-Farnell. She is an amazing sustainability policy associate. She filled the vacancy left by Elder Guerrero Gonzalez, who left to pursue another amazing job in Massachusetts last summer. So Sophie is now leading our efforts to develop a resiliency hub network, with our first pilot being at the Joplin Center in Fall. So what that means is that we are positioning our community centers to serve our residents during extreme weather events.
as cooling or, heating, warming centers, but also thinking about what do our residents need year round to support them. Anything from like maybe childcare services, workforce training, or access to supplies to ensure that they remain healthy and resilient as we approach these extreme weather events. So Sophie is our lead on that, and she's doing a stellar job. We will soon be onboarding an energy manager. This is a vacancy that we've had since we've successfully, thanks to you all and the administration, created the Energy and Resiliency Initiatives Administrator position. And that's what we promoted David Cordero to be. So that's a big win for us because we get to really put to use David's wealth of expertise in energy. And this will help guide the city as we work to meet our decarbonization and our climate goals. Not only for how the city will lead by example, but how we guide the rest of the city to also reduce emissions and improve the quality of life. Alone in that creation of that position, I just wanted to share with you all that we're on track to saving $1.2 million, and that's alone just through the energy procurement or the purchasing of commodities like electricity. And David can talk more about that when we get to discussion and Q&A, but that's just to show the value of these energy focused positions as we're working to meet our climate goals. And like Crystal said, we're not a revenue generating department, but I like to think about our department as a carbon saving department and energy saving department. That is really what we're also working to do day in and day out as we're working to also improve the quality of life for our residents and community members. So the other thing I'll quickly highlight is that because of David's position, we've also been able to secure state and federal incentives that otherwise we have not been able to track. At no cost to the city, we've been able to do lighting upgrades and lighting control upgrades at 444 Westminster. Don't own the building, but we're responsible for those energy bills. So we got well over $477,000 worth of work done in that building. Again, at no cost to the city, and that's going to yield nearly $48,000 yearly in savings on energy costs. So we've done similar projects in the public safety garage, which is now going to yield $5,000 in annual savings, while the city not having to invest the $45,000 that was put towards that project. So again, it's essential that we have an energy administrator. Yay, we have that person, David. Now it's critical that we onboard our energy manager. That energy manager is just responsible for really measuring the impact and success of how we reduce emissions. David successfully launched the Energy Intelligence Suite, working collaboratively with the IT department and public property. So that's a huge step for us because we're going to be able to easily and accurately review and forecast energy usage and water usage in our expenditures and be able to monitor that. So that's going to be an essential task of the energy manager once that person comes in to continue that tracking while David is working on the larger decarbonization goals. We'll get into questions that you have. I just want to also point out that because of the work that you are all doing and we're doing in collaboration, we are nationally recognized. The Department of Energy really approached us because of David's work, in particular to join the Better Climate Challenge and the Better Buildings Challenge. So they're looking at what we're doing. They're looking at the ordinances that the Providence has passed, and that we're now working to implement, like the building energy reporting ordinance and the energy efficiency and carbon neutral ordinance for municipal buildings. So we are a leader and they're eager to help us and to work with us. So we're really leaning into that technical expertise and shared learning that's being provided to us. And then last but not least, climate resiliency. We're all seeing the flooding, given all the increased flooding events that we're seeing. We're really working closely with the mayor's administration and my direct boss, the chief of policy and resiliency, Sheila Romney, who's here tonight, to really lead the mayor's stormwater and sewer study initiative. And thank you so much to Councilwoman Anthony and Anderbaugh for your support.
in that effort. What that means is that we're going to assess the state of our infrastructure. For stormwater and sewer, we know it's not equipped to withstand what we're seeing. And our community members are experiencing that vulnerability. So really figuring out how do we plan, for that maintenance that's needed and how do we expand that capacity and address some flooding. So there's a lot of engagement and outreach that will happen. So we can call on you during the summer as we bump that up, to really work with the community to figure out what are the solutions that we can tackle to address stormwater issues. I went way over the time I had planned, but I was just to show that we are doing so much, and it's so great to be able to work with people in collaboration as we're doing this work. Thank you.
Well, I'm hanging on every word, so what's going to remain, I'm just gonna say that the work of your team is that makes me very proud that we have that kind of recognition outside of the city of Providence for the work they're doing. I'm going to pass it off to, in case anyone has any questions, I do not. I think you're perfect. So I am going to turn it over to Councilor Anderson.
Awesome, thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you, Director and team. I will shout because my voice never carries, and then I have a mask on, so that doesn't help. I have like 5 questions, if it's okay. They're all friendly. But first, also just want to echo, Chairwoman Anthony, and thank you for all of your amazing work. You guys are doing, you punch like way above your weight, given that you have like not that many staff, and the list of things you just rattled off is amazing. And I think people often see a false dichotomy between sustainability and, and money and like economics, but you guys are just like, you might not be revenue generating, but you save so much money for the city that it's like if we were doing like the cost benefit on like our little balance sheet, like I would count it as revenue. But I do have 5 questions. The first 2 are related, I think, and maybe, for David, who I can't see, but I know is there. Can you talk a little bit about how much money you've saved this year from our virtual net metering contracts? And then relatedly, can you talk a little bit about our electricity and gas procurement? I know that you've been doing a lot to like track how much gas and electricity we're using across our like 5,000 accounts. I don't know if I'm overestimating there, but many accounts. And I know that you do bulk purchasing. Can you hear me? So I took this off for a second. You can hear me. Can you talk a little bit about how much money we've saved through the procurement that you do?
So your first part was
Virtual net metering?
net metering?
Yeah.
Virtual net metering has been a challenge for the city in that we're oversubscribed the accounts that we have been allocating our credits to. Since, fortunately, since the war in Ukraine, our credit value has shot through the roof. Typically, we are trading about 17 to 19 cents a kilowatt hour. It's gone as high as 27 cents. It's come back down just this past month. But 4.5 million every year is usually what's coming in, a little over 6 million in the last fiscal year. We have approved them and have to sell them off at a slight discount. So they are savings that we should anticipate. Any surplus, any more money that's coming in, I will take credit for, but I don't deserve it. It's due to the weather, it's due to world politics, it's due to any number of factors. That also translates into the savings that we have in recent insurance. And I've been tracking since we wrote a contract, consulting contract with Power Options to provide some sustainability backup. As it were, we can call them on any number of things. Part of that contract is to receive weekly market updates. I also check the markets on a daily basis. With Priscilla's help, I've been able to, on a weekly basis, check in, take a look at when our contracts are going to expire and when markets are right for, for procuring energy. We timed it right with electricity. You just saw the markets tick down, tick down, tick down. We got contracts lined up, we got people lined up. It took a huge dip. We just pushed the button. clean up a little bit. It sort of went outside typical procurement procedures. So it saved over the next 2 years, $1.2 million over the forecasted budget, which I had submitted to finance already 6 months prior to that. So from that standpoint, we're doing well. I also did an analysis, and this is important to understand that, and I've worked in 4 municipalities in the last 3 years, and I've procured energy for each of them. And the standard methodology is our contract is expiring in a few weeks, extended. There's really not paying any attention to market fluctuations. And when I studied Providence, we seem to have been buying energy, not so much at the bottom, but close to the top every year of the market or of the season. And as we start electrifying and decarbonizing, as the price of electricity will be very low because we're using so much more. Also, the price of gas, because we're using so much less of it, then we lose our bargaining power by bringing firms to the table. So we'll need to really work more closely with finance. Director Nancy was wonderful in handling some of this. But we've had some internal discussions. We continue to track the markets. And we know what direction we need to take. So we have to play the markets. We have to realize we're buying and trading in commodities, and we're putting a lot of emphasis on electricity moving forward, especially green electricity. So sustainability has a lot of the whole team is really. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, and one thing I can flag, and I don't know if this ties into, any other questions we have council in, but as, David alluded to, in terms of the timing, it's great that we have this option of being able to like lock in this price. Because of the existing procurement and relationship we have with our energy, vendors, but it's gonna be really critical. I guess we're doing these shifts that we are even more proactive. So I think really working together to look at our procurement and where are the bottlenecks of that, because recently we wanted to take advantage of a dip in the gas market and we weren't able to move forward. We hit some roadblocks. And some of the things that we did hit, we are working to streamline with that energy intelligence suite, which is at the rate at which, the speed at which we pay bills, we track information, that's all going to be streamlined. But also in terms of just the process that we work through, because when the dip happens, we have like a short window to secure that. So unfortunately, we had to say, okay, we can't pursue those savings in $200,000. We can't move fast enough on the internal procurement side.
Thank you, that was really helpful and very thorough. This is a question for Director De La Cruz. With apologies to Kevin, it's awkward for you to hear, because you're amazing. It looks like the Deputy Director of Sustainability position is one of the lowest in the like chart we have of like compensation areas. It's an 816, but most other deputy directors are much higher, like 820, 824, 826, 825. Can you talk about any plans you have to like increase that position?
Yeah, so we've been proactive, go ahead.
Sorry to put you on the spot, I just want to make sure we keep Kevin.
So we've been proactive, in working with, the mayor's office and also with, human resources. And what has, came of those conversations as we were like doing our analysis and working with finance is that there is a need to do like an assessment, really like citywide. So in that, with finance, the mayor's office and HR, there is a commitment to assess, to really make sure that there is like equity and fairness, with the positions that we have in the department, and definitely with the deputy director position. One of the things that we noted, and we've had a lot of conversations about this, is that the department, it's like one of the newer departments. It's like, it was created about 10 years ago or so, the sustainability department.
I'm looking at Sheila. She was the first
Oh.
director.
Yeah.
So, but that's a way of me just getting to my analogy of like, it was in its infancy, now we're at the adolescent stage, so we've done a lot of like vetting of like, what does it take to be a successful department and what do we need for longevity? So that prompted the conversations with HR and finance, and it's in recent years that we've had a deputy director position. Because formerly when Kevin was hired, it was under, what was the title, strategist or?
Capability strategy manager, I don't remember.
So this is those are one of the things that we'll want to work through as we are in our adolescent stage and that assessment is being done by HR.
Okay. These are more the technical in services, private contractors has gone down like 50%. It's 53401. You know why that's gone down?
Want to talk about it?
I think in general, our budget has fluctuated pretty wildly between these subcategories since we've been fiscally independent. And I think part of it is kind of just us figuring out where things go. We kept the budget actually basically the same every year. And we're looking more at that bottom line or top line number of the total kind of services budget. And less so about which category they're in. But I think maybe the reason this year that it would have gone down from private contractors, and then you see kind of a correlated rise in grant matches. So we're just kind of reallocating. We had more money going towards the stormwater study from our typical department fiscal year budget in FY 24. We had 50,000 going towards it in FY 24, about 25,000 going towards it in FY 25, and then that 25 is kind of reallocated to different grant matches that we've received. So it's kind of just a displacement between categories, not a decrease in overall budget for the department. So we're comfortable that we're the ones that reallocated that way internally and are comfortable with that when we're being the system.
This is more of a comment than a question. I also just want to really thank Kevin and Sophie for being part of our Vision Zero interagency working group. That's been really helpful. The next week will be in June, we'll tight, I think we'll busy. And then I'm also really excited to work with you guys on future ordinances. I know you referenced zero and carbon neutral and one budget so far. I'm excited to continue our collaboration on more things going forward. So thank you guys so much.
Yes, Councilor Santa.
Thank you, Chairman. I really don't have any questions. Director, I think your presentation was probably one of the most comprehensive presentations we've had so far, so major props. What does fiscally independent department mean?
Oh, so we were originally under public property, so our budget was.
Okay, just like, that.
Yeah, so now we manage our own budget.
All right,
So
fair
we'll
enough.
get to with that, so.
I mean, really, my last comment would be, that this department should be growing in terms of staff every year is my last comment on it. I think something that we should definitely be working towards as a city. You guys do so much work. I get Julie's emails every couple days, so I definitely try to keep up to all the great work that you guys do, not only with different city departments, but with outside agencies. I know all the great work that the Resiliency Hub and Jocelyn Center is doing, and I'm really excited and here to support you and be in your guys' corner as much as possible. Thank you.
Yes, please, protest.
Thank you for that presentation and commend you for your department for really tapping into dollars that don't exist at the local level. Right, I understand you said $7.6 million from federal dollars that were acquired in the fiscal year 2024. Since
Some of them are gonna spread out over different fiscal years, but it was last fiscal year that we were securing those dollars.
so congratulations on that to both. It sounds like Kevin is
It's a rock star.
well, you make us all look good, so that's great, especially if we're getting notice at the national level, looking to the leadership of our councilwoman in the department. Question in terms of savings with the Providence electricity program?
Yeah.
Yes. So I know you mentioned several millions of dollars. Can you just, what has been the savings? just, those numbers, and what does that mean to a ratepayer?
So happy to talk about that. So with the Providence electricity program, I think we can, cautiously say that every time we've like had a specific price, when we first launched it, it was a 6-month price. Then if the program was continued for another 6-month rate, the summer rate. So in those 6 months, at the very least, we've been able to save each household $10. So, you know, when we think about the aggregate of that, it's like 50,000 households or so participating. So like you said, those are dollars circulating. The numbers that I referenced during the presentation were specifically on the emissions. So part of the climate justice plan, what was recognized is that we can have control over that electricity supply and have good buying power and use that as a climate action tool to drive down the emissions. And depending on how the market is doing is how much we'll be able to really save our residents. So I'm hoping that in the later years, this program has been running in Massachusetts for quite some time. So they have, you know, they're ahead in navigating the market and building that lead time. As our program gets more mature, our opportunities for saving money as well can also increase. So that's the hope of that program.
And do you, use an intimidator, a person in the middle to purchase the rates?
For the energy procurement,
Yep.
yes, if you want to talk about the consultants we work with on the energy side.
Community or for the municipal?
For both.
Oh, for both. So on the community, yes, the city, a couple of years ago went through a competitive bidding process and chose Good Energy as the consultant, the broker. And then they're responsible for bringing on the vendor that provides that electricity supply, and the renewable energy. So right now we have Nextera for the electricity demand supply. And then I'm very proud to say that we have Green Energy Consumers Alliance, a local nonprofit that provides the voluntary renewable energy. And that's all coming from renewable energy in Rhode Island.
Thank you very much.
And then David can talk about the other consultant.
And on the municipal side, we participate in our Rhode Island League City and Towns program, approved by the state REAP program, Rhode Island Energy Aggregation Program for municipalities. We've been purchasing energy for 6 years. The program is just renewed at 5 years. We've had 8 contracts, both gas and electricity, and the program is administered by Power Options. And they've been using Constellation Energy to lay they've recently expanded their energy supply services to include bucket solar, battery storage, EV charging infrastructure. And these are some of the things that we are working on to bring to Providence to help reduce carbon emissions to low costs, operating costs. So the program is well established. It is expanding, providing that.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions, comments? Thank you, excellent presentation. Thank you for everything you do for our city. Okay, with that, we are going to move on to Housing and Human Services. Director of Briefing. And team, I'm not, how are you? Good. Please come right up and we'll swear you in. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Everyone can raise their right hand. You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your names and titles for the record.
Emily Friedman, Director of Housing and Human Services. Rachel Ferrara, Human Services Director.
Sue Robio, Director of Senior Services. Okay, please have a seat. We are going to not mark our exhibit until Councilor Sanchez returns. So yeah, if you could just pause for 1 minute. Okay. We are going to mark our, exhibit for, human services budget, number 27, and a motion.
Second,
Motion made by Councilor Engelbaum, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. Aye, all opposed. Okay, so we are ready to hear from the deputy director.
Wonderful, thank you, Madam Chair. As many of us know, this is a department that has undergone a reorganization throughout fiscal year 2024. And in an effort to be transparent about how the salaries have shifted, page 2 of your packet from me has a document that outlines the positions that were previously in the planning department, what portion of those positions were funded by the general fund, the salary allocated to those positions, and how it's changed in fiscal year 2025. So if you'd like, I can kind of go through the first line.
If you would just walk us through to make sure that we understand, and I'm very appreciative because we asked for this early on, and I so appreciate it being the.
Oh, good. So for example, the very first line highlighted in a pinkish color is the administrative assistant position. Last year, there were 3 of those administrative assistants allowed in the classification ordinance. The planning department funded 30% of one employee, because most of these employees are grant funded, for a total general fund appropriation of $12,740 towards this salary. In fiscal year 2025, this position has moved out of the planning department and into the Department of Housing and Human Services. There is now only one of these positions allowed. We are funding 0.5% of this salary for an annual cost of $22,620. Okay, and if you follow the chart along, you can see that when we get down to the very bottom, I've provided some totals to provide a little context around how this has happened, because while the total number of FTEs isn't changing dramatically, the portion that the general fund is subsidizing has changed a little bit. So if we go down to the very bottom, you can see that last year, when you take the combined total of planning positions that have shifted into this department and housing and human services division, or human services positions that had existed in 24, the combined total were 46 allowed positions and funding for the equivalent of 10.7 full-time employees, for a total salary of $695,268. When we compare that to the budget for fiscal year 2025 of $729,645, it's about a $33,000 difference. However, $20,000 of that $30,000 difference represents the 3% COLA that is contractually, or not contractually obligated for non-union employees, but would have been borne by the general fund had this reorganization not occurred. Additionally, that $13,000 in true change expense over expense represents things like step increases or some changes that the director can talk a little bit about for grant allocations that would have needed to change had this reorganization not. So I think the goal of this document was to really demonstrate that while the director has done an unbelievable job of doing a full reorganization mid-year for some very important topics, she's also done what we really appreciate in finance and set it in a budget neutral way, and really maximize how to be able to get grant reimbursements to provide the same level and perhaps more services to the community, without impacting our general fund operations. Okay.
Appreciate that.
So I also point to this beautiful org chart she put together. The director and I have had a lot of conversations about this because it is very complex. She has color coded for you the positions in her org chart that have come from planning, the ones that were in previously HCO, and the ones that have had slight modifications in her role. So again, a lot of information, but we are trying to really be transparent about what happened throughout the year with this department and set everybody up for success going into fiscal year 2020.
So just to clarify, so we have the blue coming from the planning department, the green coming from HCO.
Yeah, and what was Healthy Communities or Human Services last year.
Sorry, I'm missing my healthy communities. Sorry. All right, and the peach is modified, a newly created role.
Exactly, or modifications. In the instance of the fiscal advisor role, this position is now taking on some more supervisory responsibilities and overseeing some fiscal officers who are working on federal grants and some complicated things. And so we're requesting to actually pursue hiring that at an A18 level, which is a little higher than we had looked at last year at an A15, but that's to recognize the change in the scope of responsibilities and duties. And that job description has also been included in the packet.
And I'm sorry, where is that position on the?
At the tippy top, towards the right hand side.
All right.
Great. Okay, so I got a little off track, but I'll go to the rest of our narrative. I just felt it was important to explain these things in advance of kind of getting into it so that we could. Housing and Human Services, this department is proposed to codify its name change from Human Services to the Department of Housing and Human Services. Revenue, this is not a revenue generating department, we'll move on to expenditures. Total salaries in fiscal 25 are proposed $748,371. This is an increase of $235,301 over the fiscal 2024 budget. The department has implemented a reorganization in fiscal 24 and is requesting that it be codified in fiscal 25. A full reconciliation of the positions that have transferred from the planning and development to housing and human services is included as a supplemental schedule. In total, the reorganization has resulted in a slight reduction in FTE salaries charged to the general fund. Benefits. Total benefits in fiscal 25 are proposed $378,604. This is an increase of $153,703 from the fiscal 2024 budget. Services. Total services for fiscal 25 are proposed $1,454,497. This is an increase of $36,134 from fiscal 2024 budget. This increase is primarily due to additional funding for program expenditures, which have been offset by a reduction in contract services. Total supplies for fiscal 2025 are proposed $186,142. This is an increase of $107,907 with fiscal 2024 budget. And this increase is primarily due to the transfer of rent from the Department of Planning and Development and funding to provide additional staff training and development. And there are no capital expenditures in this budget.
Wonderful. Thank you for walking us through that. And the director. Yeah.
Thank you all. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all tonight. First, I want to make a point of thanking Director Lindbergh, who has been tremendous in guiding me through my first well experienced in federal budget process here at the city. The city budget process is a bit new to me. Thank you for bearing with us and thank you for coming through. So I give the pleasure of meeting with many of you to give you a preview of our intentions to this reorganization. On January 1st, 2024, the city took steps to unify the staff of the Healthy Communities Office, which for budget purposes, you know, as the Human Services Department. Our Senior Services Department and the Community Development Division of Planning create a singular Department of Housing and Human Services. The missions of these teams are deeply aligned, and we are already seeing the benefits from the ability to leverage the talent and resources of each team to bring more impactful results for their shared goals. Our role as a department is to identify and address community plans for the development, implementation, and evaluation of programs and community-based strategies that serve to build strong, vibrant, and stable neighborhoods, enhance opportunity and public health, and provide quality affordable housing throughout the city. The department designs programs responsive to resident needs. Census program aligns resources and invests in community-based partners to deliver services. We oversee the success of Providence's community development programs, housing programs, senior services, citywide health policies, promotion, prevention, and intervention programs. We receive a wide combination of federal, state, and local funding sources through entitlement and competitive grants and municipal funds to serve the key goal of serving wide range of at-risk and vulnerable populations. With your support, the team shall and has been and shall achieve meaningful measurable progress in making affordable housing more acceptable in this community, building greater local behavioral health supports, closing food and health equity gaps, and improving our senior services. So some 2025 highlights we're excited to share with you all, that with your support, we will be launching the 2025 to 2030 consolidated plan process imminently, which is where we will conduct a community needs assessment and housing market analysis to inform how we will spend our HUD grants for the next 5 years. We will also implement an array of activities that the administration and council have vetted and authorized via our CDBG process. We are seeking to reapply and extend and expand the Lead Safe Providence program. We are actively pursuing SAMHSA opportunities to expand our harm reduction and behavioral health work. We are imminently about to publish an emergency food plan for the city and issue a related ARPA RFP to increase our infrastructure for food distribution, so we are better prepared for our next emergency event. We are also putting final touches on an age-friendly plan for the city. We are finalizing a plan for the deployment of our opioid settlement funds, and we are initiating the implementation of that of the fall published overdose prevention plan, and also thinking creatively about how to foster more recovery housing by layering the various resources that the department receives. Finally, we're hoping to create a better interface for our service partners. The budget grants are going to be shifting to HHS. We're going to be working to streamline contracting and points of contact for our nonprofit community. We are developing and fostering universal reporting of key performance indicators. We're going to be enabling providers to, through all of that, better focus on the direct service work and less on the administration, and also strengthen our ability to evaluate the impact and efficacy of our many investments. We are now seeking to work with you all to formally modify this new structure in the FY25 budget before you. As you know, this Department of Human Services was an existing city department within the charter, and its unification under that structure has proven to be an efficient practical step to improve our delivery services. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm gonna open it up for questions. Yes, Councilor Handerville.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Director, and your whole team. I just have a few questions. One is in the org chart we provided, thank you for color coding it, that's so helpful. It's like A+ tonight, all the departments, anyway, but, there are a few vacancies. Can you talk about the vacancies and like your plans to fill them or not?
Absolutely. So we are actively recruiting for a number of roles right now. So if anyone knows anyone or council can assist us with amplifying our postings, that would be appreciated. We have interviews underway for the vacant data evaluation manager position. We have interviews, I would say, wrapping up for the housing resource coordinator position. We actively have posted the lead and healthy housing inspector 1 and 2. And we will soon be posting the vacant fiscal advisor position with your people.
But not the, human services program manager?
Oh, I'm sorry, I overlooked that. 1 is actively posted now and interviewing. The other is contingent upon a July 1 start date of a new partnerships for success grant coming in. So until the new budget is approved, we won't fix that.
Okay. And is the 0% next to it, is that 0% general revenue and all that grant? That's perfect. And then can you talk a little bit about, because a lot of your programs, it feels like, but I could be wrong, like interact with CIS. Can you talk about how you coordinate with CIS for like home repair and other things like that?
Absolutely, very regularly, and I expect to continue that work to actually continue to expand in light of the new code violation home repair program that has been launched. In many cases, we know the repair needs in our housing stock are immense, and so it takes careful coordination to raise resources to ensure that we're able to address all of the holistic issues in a home when we encounter them. And so we work carefully with GIS, our lead program, and our home, we have CDBG funded home repair program. We are also working with Providence Revolving Fund to all sort of bring homes initiative, community action partnership with Providence. Many times as we get into, especially the larger multifamily properties in Providence, it takes a village to really sort of ensure that that property can be brought fully up to standard. Thank you.
I think that is my last question for now.
Okay. Yes, Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director. I think the restructure of this is something that we should be doing, definitely a step in the right direction. Well, just so that being said, is there anyone like in your department that works on like housing policy or who would be that position? Obviously, besides you.
I really, the goal here is to have housing in all policies
Yeah.
that we work on, and so our goal by creating this department is really to have all divisions thinking about housing and thinking about how we can grade resources and address this issue holistically. As we know, so housing is one of the key social determinants of health, and so all of us need to be working on housing in our way and on housing policy. In particular, we have a housing division, a housing and community development division that is specifically working to develop policies and procedures for the city's housing programs. Often suggests improvements to our housing programs or new programs. And then we work, of course, very closely still with the planning department and the Providence redevelopment agency to be planful around our future housing needs and our land.
Thank you. And I asked that because, obviously it's not really comparing apples and apples. But just seeing your salary between this whole department, it's around 750,000 compared to police department, 55 million. And just that alone, it's pretty depressing. I'll just put it out there that we know why folks end up in difficult situations and do what they have to do. And if we're not dramatically investing in preventative measures before folks get to certain spots in their lives, that we're just gonna continue this cycle. So I appreciate all the work that you do. I really don't have any other questions. You're always very accessible to reach out, and I appreciate that. I guess my last minor question would be, thank you for the organization chart. If the positions aren't funded through the city, what, can you speak a little bit of where else they're funded through?
Sure, so our department may possibly be unique in the level of funding that is actually, the bulk of our work is happening through federal, state, and local grants. So this is sort of the tip of the iceberg. This is only the general fund portion that really gets reflected. To give you a sort of rundown of all of the various sources, I think we have the HUD entitlement grants. I'm gonna start speaking in acronyms, I'm so sorry. CDBG, home, ESG, PAPWA, home ARP, lead hazard reduction. We have NSP, we have opioid settlement funding that's flowing down to us, SAMHSA funding.
Behavioral health and developmental disabilities,
Yes.
hospitals funding.
Yes, ARP funding.
Not yet, yeah.
Sponsorship.
Sponsorships for sure.
Yeah, so it is interesting, you can't see the detail here, but we do actually have a very immense cost allocation worksheet where we are charging people to grants, so. The bulk of our staff really are, I think of these 30 FTEs, only about 10 are actually being charged to general fund, the rest is being attributed across a number of different grants, and our goal. Long-term is to continue to boost the level of resources coming into the city for that exact reason. That we know that the needs are not being met, but we also know that there are a number of resources out there that we've not tapped into. So personally, I'm very excited about this unification because we're now leveraging a lot of talents. And we're building, we've added fiscal capacity, we've added data and evaluation capacity that's really going to work across divisions. And I think it's going to position us well to be incredibly competitive for future grant.
So just from my understanding, so I guess when you take all the grants into account, in terms of salary wise, like I know we contribute like 750, but it's, you probably have more than like, what, 2 million in salaries under you?
Yeah, I would say it's probably closer to 3. This is, to the director's point, this is a very unique department and something we quite frankly like to see in the finance office, where they're being creative in how they're funding and supporting the community. And so, you know, we have some provisions in our ordinances that prevent grant funded employees from being absorbed into the general fund when their grant funding expires. This is a department that certainly adheres to that. rule and logic, but they really do maximize every dollar that's out there and acknowledge that sometimes the best way to get programs like this funded are by looking to outside sources and utilizing those resources to help support the city so that the operating budget can be used for things that there are not outside resources.
Thank you.
Yes, pro tem.
Thank you for the presentation and we always start, especially during the CDBG process and your team there. So thank you for that. And I have a couple of questions in reference to and piggyback in terms of the needs not being met. Just wanted to go into a couple of things. One is under your department, do you have a grant writer that taps into these outside sources of funds? And can you highlight one or two of those?
Sure. So I'm privileged to say, have a deep bench of folks who are very talented at grant writing. I would say myself, Rachel Ferrara, Sue, Director Vicente in the back there, or Paul Barron has been incredibly successful at ensuring we've had a repeat, ever increasing, let's say, Providence program. So there are a number of us internally who have that capacity. We've also, in prior fiscal year, the mayor's office hired Al Cintron, who is a fantastic grant writer, who also offers support to ensure that we always have the capacity to be going after whatever opportunity is out there.
And the reason why, because I don't see in your org chart anyone specifically in terms of the plan. So it seems like you all do it as a team, as a in terms of servicing, I'm biased. And the question is in reference to veterans. It never comes up, but can you speak a little bit of in your mission or as you restructure the organization, the Housing and Human Services, where do veterans fit in the city of Providence?
That's a fantastic question. That is a priority population that we continue to look to serve. As we know, there are sadly veterans experiencing homelessness still in Rhode Island that we feel should not be a condition that continues. And so we make investments in partners like Operation Stand Down. We make investments in affordable housing to provide permanent support housing for veterans who are experiencing homelessness. I think Sue can speak to.
We work very closely with the Department of Veterans Affairs, with the state. A lot of veterans benefits kind of are similar to senior services. They kind of fall into similar categories. So we try our best to work with them. There's a lot of agencies that work with veterans. We will follow through with them. We're not just going to give a phone number and send them off. We really try to stay with them and follow up and make sure that they get the services that they need.
Are there any specific programs that you're running currently?
We do not run specific programs. No, we just give resources and assist in helping them find resources.
So part of that is
Yes, please.
part of that, as you may or may not know, that we established a commission for veteran affairs in the city council. And it is to have this dialogue to get more specific, because there are a lot of veterans out there. And just like any other community, sometimes it's integrated, very limited in terms of their services. So specifically providing any programs, but I also would encourage, as you're looking to drill down or reorganize the committee or the housing department in human services, is to specifically have something for veterans. And the reason why with that is because there are federal dollars and grants for veterans, particularly in urban communities, and I think that you should spend some time there. The other question I had was in reference to compliance officers. I see that there are like 3 or 4 compliance officers. Can you just expand a little bit on that? What is that? What does that mean? They're not in the field, or they just, what are they holding people accountable for what?
the many federal regulations that flow with the dollars that we are often pushing out to the community, and the method. We are typically sub-granting funds, often predominantly through our HUD grants, to outside organizations. When that happens, the federal regulations that flow with those dollars flow down to the organizations. So that does leave the city, whether it's CDBG or ARPA, it leaves us with a monitoring obligation to ensure that those funds continue to be implemented in accordance with the federal regulations. So procurement with the CDBG, it's Davis Bacon prevailing wages and all of these forms that have to be collected and put on file. And what we do is we know that the organizations, they know how to do the work. They may not necessarily know how to do all of the federal paperwork. And so our compliance officers are really adept at trying to have that capacity in-house so that we don't need to ask organizations, nonprofits to, take on that burden, because that's again, a distraction from doing the active work.
Thank you for that information. The other is in terms of, the rent that's being charged. Going from 70,000 to about, I want to say 169. Is that because you moved to another area or what is that?
No, that represents the staff that were previously in the planning department that had shifted over.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The staff that were previously in the planning budget, so they have a decrease in their rent expense, and the Housing and Human Services Division has a proportional increase. Because we allocate rent based on square footage and space occupied by that department, and so a large portion of the Department of Planning and Development moved into the Department of Housing and Human Services, and so we moved the rent expense along with the staff.
And you're housed in the
444, sorry.
Vice Ministers?
With the exception of our friends in the senior services office who are embedded within MCCS, we are,
MCCS,
yeah,
mayors,
we're all third floor.
311. Is there any future plans of moving out of there from,
It allows the community to come in and have access to us. I don't know if there are plans, there's not a lot of space. Here, are you talking about us moving to 444?
no, just out?
Oh,
You, but also even,
yeah, I think we belong here at City Hall, but I don't know if there are any plans to move us out this time.
why do you feel that you belong here?
Why do I
In
feel?
terms of the senior services, right?
Yeah, I feel this is where people come. This is where the need is.
People come to your office and.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they come to
have
City Halls,
accessibility.
whether they're having issue with the tax collector or assessor or whatever, we help them navigate through city services as well.
Mm.
So we're out in the community a lot, but we're here, our office is here, and we welcome people to come in if they need an appointment or they just walk in. We have many walk-ins.
And the health and community services, does that continue? Will continue under your department, and is that being restructured again?
So that team is all still in place. We have reverted to the human services, division name, but we still are retaining the mission and the branding of the Health and Communities Office. That is a core tenet of the work that we're going to be doing.
And that is located in.
That's 444.
Thank you.
We're all on the third floor.
Good. All right.
That's one more question.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chairwoman. Just one quick question. So under, services, contractual services. Is that what I'm thinking? Oh, no, I'm lying. Under program expense, sorry, I answered my question on the other one. Under program expense 52250, it looks like quite a jump, from prior years. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. So I know that this department was very diligent about examining what was getting charged to contract services and what really should be reallocated to program expense. So if you look kind of above, you can see contractual services went down by $193,000 and program expense went up by 226. A lot of that was just shifting things that really were program expense out of contract services and into program expense.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Oh, you know what, oh, that also, yes.
Yeah, so there is a large jump. One of the line items, just to make you aware, was previously we had a general budget grant to a specific organization for non-violence investment.
Oh, yeah.
A decision has been made to transfer that as a line item into HHS for us to put out an RFP to broaden, the number of vendors and ensure that those dollars equitably get distributed, to any organization and that those are right sized.
Okay.
So that's where I raised that.
Was that the nonviolence grant that was done through just like the regular administrative grants? All right.
I'm sorry, a follow-up to that, why not continue with the non-violence institute, I guess?
They'll be an eligible vendor, and we fully expect that they will continue to be a respondent to it, but, they are going through a period of transition and also need to likely right size and get back to us on what is an appropriate funding amount for them, so we felt it best, most transparent and thoughtful and planned to put it out as an RFP and allow them to respond. We fully expect that they will.
Okay. All right, interesting, thank you, because we were looking for that, actually.
It is still here, the goal is to really actually make the non-violence investments part of our continued scope of work here within our department.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Yes, Proton.
This is not so directly to, this meeting, but more to the deputy.
Yeah.
I know the last year, learned that, the 444 Westminster.
Yeah.
Is not a city building,
Correct.
that is, that it's on lease.
Mhm.
For how long is that lease?
Oh, gosh.
And we're responsible for all the maintenance and everything else?
We sure are, yeah. I don't have the lease term in my head at this moment, but I could get that for you in response.
Yeah, if we can get, and it has that. If you could just get that information, at least for me, for us, but also, I see obviously the rent, because that gets allocated by departments.
Correct.
How many square foot as you indicated, how much has the rent increased on that lease?
Like this
Yeah.
fiscal year or?
Yeah, compared to from 24 to now and.
Yeah,
what
so
that-
you want, would like a year by year report on how much the rent has grown?
Yep, and just on that lease there.
Yeah.
It just came to mind and I knew that, I thought that the city owned it. Because we even named the facility. So if
Yes, that's fine.
I can get that information, I'm sure that my colleagues will
We would appreciate it.
appreciate that too.
Certainly, and you want all inclusive payments made to, that are allocated to rent. I believe there's like a maintenance cost as well.
Yeah, I mean, just the lease and the building itself. I mean, I think that, I know this is not the setting in essence, I think it was more, if we're locked into that lease for how long, and then as we continue to plan, as it was indicated before, technology and so forth, should we be thinking about where else are we going to lease or buy, or should we be buying a facility or building?
Buildings.
With that,
Or if you have vacant buildings.
exactly,
If you do.
so, so, that's.
Oh, thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Yes, please.
Emily, 'cause I know we interact with the PRA board, and one of the first things I realized at 404 is that there isn't, public water fountains. I know the staff has, water containers in the offices. Are those still down?
Yes, I believe they were removed during COVID, and that has not, they've not been restored.
Thank you. I've been working on that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Well, we're excited for the reorg and thank you all
Thank you.
very much for everything you do for our city and everyone in the back. Yeah, thank you. So, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can we continue
Oh,
the
I'm
matter
sorry, a
first?
motion to continue items number 1 through 4.
So moved.
Second. A motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Anderson, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, and then.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, motion to adjourn made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Anderson, all in favor? Aye. We made it.
Did we?